Hello students, this is Miss Dalton and this is video 7.2 for AQR and it is on permutations. Before we talk about permutations, this is in your book on section 11. It's on page 91. Again, you can access your textbook in Moodle up at the very top of the page. But let's go over some definitions before we get started. So what is an inset? You're going to see this word listed and you need to know what it means. It just means a set of n elements. So if we have 10 elements, the inset is 10. If we have 12 elements, then the inset is 12. What are permutations of a set? Permutations are the ordered arrangement of the elements of the set. So it's very similar to what we were working on in the last video when we were working with the order of the books on the shelf. But we're going to give you some faster ways to do this, especially when the numbers get very large. Okay, here's the definition of a permutation of an inset, and it gets a little, it's worded a little crazy just because we're talking in general terms. But it says a set of n elements has n, and that exclamation point is called a factorial. What a factorial is you take the number, so you take the n. Let's say the n is 10. So you would do 10 times and then do 1 less than n. So 1 less than 10 is 9. So 10 times 9, then times 8, times 7, times 6, times 5, times 4, times 3, times 2, times 1. So you just multiply all those numbers all the way down. Well, obviously this can get very time consuming, especially if you don't have a calculator. However, there is a way to do factorial on your calculator. If you are using your calculator, you want to go to the math button. Then you want to go over to PRB, which stands for probability, and you're going to choose number 4. Number 4 is going to have that factorial there. So if you were doing 10 factorial, you would just type in 10, then you would go to math, then you would go to probability, then you would go to number 4. Okay, so let's keep going. It says the notation n factorial is read n factorial. We define 0 factorial as 1, and then n factorial obviously is, you're going to take that number and multiply by each number decreasing. Christian Cramp is the one who introduced the exclamation mark as the symbol for factorial because factorials become remarkably large for relatively small numbers. So we can use that symbol in place of going ahead and calculating what the large number is. So here we have an example. It says 4 musicians, Ed Sheeran, Ellie Goulding, Jason Mraz, and Lorde, are going to perform together at a huge outdoor summer concert. You have to decide the order in which they should appear on the stage. How many permutations are possible? Okay, so like we were talking about in the previous video where you get your 4 spots, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go ahead and put the numbers in each spot. Well, we have 4 artists to choose from for that first position. Then after we've chosen that person, we're not going to choose them again. So then we have 3, then we have 2, then we have 1. We're going to multiply them all together. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do here, but as you notice, 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, that's the same thing as just 4 factorial. Either one is okay to use, but you're going to find out that you're going to want to use the factorial if the number is really large. So you're not having to type in all those numbers, just step by step. 4 factorial is 24. So there are 24 possibilities. Our next example, so we're going to do the batting lineup. You get to manage the Texas Rangers baseball team for the last day of the season. Regular manager Jeff Bannister gets to pick the 8 position players and the pitcher, who will always bat 9th. You get to pick the batting order for the position players. How many batting orders are possible? Again, we could list out each position, but you're going to see that we have 8 position players. So it's going to go 8 times 7 times 6 all the way down, which is 8 factorial. And 8 factorial is equal to 40,300 120. Now, is it possible to use the same 8 position players for all 162 games in a Major League season and have a different batting order for every game? Well, yes, it is, because we have 40,320 different possibilities, and that's a whole lot more than the number of games that are in a regular season. Okay, the other type of permutation that you're going to see is what we call distinguishable permutations of an inset. The definition says if an inset consists of n1 elements of one type, n2 elements of a second type, n3 elements of a third type, etc., such as n equals n1 plus n2 plus n3 plus so on, then the number of distinguishable permutations of the set is the formula. Okay, so what does this really mean? Well, here's an example of how it's going to be worded. It'll say, how many distinguishable ways can the letters in the word Mississippi be arranged? Well, the problem here is that we have a couple of letters that repeat. So, for example, if I mix up these letters and this S gets put in this S's position, it's the same word. So we have to take into consideration the letters that are being repeated, and that's what this is down here. In the denominator, you're going to put any number of letters that repeat. And then the numerator is going to be the total. Okay, so in this particular example, let's count the total number of letters. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 letters total. Now, we also have some that repeat. So if I go back to the S's, let's see how many S's. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 S's. And we've got I's that repeat. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 I's. And we also have P's that repeat, 2 P's. So if I figure out how many ways this can happen, I want to do 11 factorial in the numerator, because you're going to take the total number as a factorial in the numerator, and then you multiply all of the ones that repeat. So I have 4 factorial times 4 factorial times 2 factorial. And if you type this in on your calculator, you'll see that it comes out to be 34,650 ways. For this last example, let's have you go ahead and try it. So pause the video, and I want you to try it on your own, and then when you're ready to check your answer, go ahead and press play. Okay, there's a total of 2,520 different ways to arrange the letters of the word bobcats. There are 7 letters total, so that's where we get the 7 factorial from, is the total. And then B repeats twice, and that's the only letter that repeats, and so that's the 2 factorial. We divide it, you get 2,520. Okay, if you have any questions, please either ask me by sending me an email or a remind message, or you can ask in class.